This is part 2 of the Cricut Cutter tutorial, and what I'm going to do is start by uploading the image that is an SVG file. Again, that was a file created in Illustrator based on artwork that was drawn and scanned. So we're going to come over here to the left-hand menu, and very simply we're going to start by clicking Upload, and I'm going to go over here to upload the image that I just created. Find that image on the desktop. That's the image, tree branch. And there it is. Now at this point I've found it, but I haven't actually uploaded it yet to the workspace. So we'll go ahead and click Upload, little green button down here. And I'm actually going to delete a couple of these just because I just don't need them. Now let's go ahead and take this. So it's in the design workspace, but it's actually not on the canvas yet to be worked with. So I'm going to take that file, click Add to Canvas over here, the little green button again on the lower right. And the file looks good from what I can see. I want to bring a few things to your attention. If you look over here, you'll see all of the individual pieces that are made or that comprise the overall shape. So there's a lot of pieces in here. What I want to do first of all is I want to come in and I think the first thing I'd like to do is make sure that the entire thing is welded together. And so what we do with a weld is we do this. We go over here, right side of the menu at the very bottom, and we say weld. And what that will do is it will take all of these images, or all these little parts of the image, and weld them together as one. This is really important because when we come in to actually make the file, it's important that all of these pieces don't spread across the cutter. So anyhow, let me actually show you, if we didn't do that, what would happen when we actually went to make the file. If I go to make it, you can see that just click Mat to start. You can see that what it's doing here is it's taking those images, given the size of the mat board, and it's spreading those images out according to how they're connected or not connected. So for example, this whole thing is all connected when it was imported, but these were all separate. So it's doing a very, very good job of kind of moving things around to where, where it thinks it can fit everything on the mat. But that's not really what I want for a stencil. I want everything combined. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that, go back to my artwork. And at this point, let's combine everything by welding it together. There's my weld result. Now I'll go over to make it. A couple of things over here. I do want to say that I'm going to make it with one of the mats. The mats are 12 by 12 or 12 by 24, or you can actually go without a mat. And this is if you had rolls, for example, and we're printing something quite long. 12 inches is the width, but you can go longer than 24 if you go without a mat, if you wanted to do that. So your options here are 12 by 12 or 12 by 24 if you're cutting on the mat, which is what I'm doing. I'll show you some examples of the mat when we actually go to the actual physical Cricut itself. Right now, as I said, we're just in the Cricut Design Space. I am interfaced to the Cricut, however, right now via USB, so my Cricut is just like literally right behind me. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. Now, I'm going to be cutting today on acetate, some very, very fine, thin acetate, 0.005, I believe is what the measurement is. So probably what I'll do is I'll cut a sheet of that acetate 12 by probably 22, and then everything around that will become part of the stencil, which is really great. So what I'll be doing is knocking out, everything else. All right. So we're pretty much ready to go here. So we're going to continue. This looks good. And now it's getting ready to actually make the cut. Now there's a few things that we have to do here. I've set this to washi because I was cutting some other stencils earlier on a different kind of material. So what kind of material you go to make your stencil is really obviously very, very important. I've played around with so many different kind of materials, and I can't say enough about making sure that you look at the various materials that your machine, whether it's Cricut or Silhouette or the other machines that are on the market, understanding what kind of materials they can cut and then what kind of blades are available to cut those materials, I think is really important. Cricut does a great job, in my opinion, of really cutting on a variety of materials. My understanding is Silhouette also does a very good job. So, again, look at the materials and see what you like. I'm going with acetate. And so I'm going to come down here to plastic. You can tell there's plastic, paper, different kinds, other, vinyl, leather, iron-on, foil and metal, foam, felt, lots of different kinds of fabrics, as you can see. There's a bunch of different fabrics here. Cardstock and artboard. So let's come down here and let's look at acetate. And I think what I'm going to do is go acetate, click done, and then the pressure for the acetate, I'll just keep it default. I can, if you do a cut and you just lift up the very edge of it and you can see that the cut hasn't gone all the way through and you need to add more pressure, the cool thing is, and I've done this before, you can just keep everything loaded even after you've cut, and you can actually then come back and add more pressure by doing more or just by cutting again. Sometimes it requires two cuts, just like cutting with an X-Acto knife. Sometimes you need to do 2 or 3 runs before you get all the way through the material. But in this case, I'm just going to go default because I've already told it that I want to work with acetate. So it determines what sort of pressure is needed for the acetate. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the Cricut before we do the next step.